With that, I will call the meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. Greetings, everybody. Roll call. We'll start with me, Christina Davis. I'm present. Pam Summers.
Here.
Judy Austin.
Here.
Keith Lipker.
Here.
Paul Varga is not present. And Angie DeSanto is not present. And then we have our alternates, Tim Rhodes.
Present.
Present. Khalid Love is not present, and Hugh McKenzie is not present. Angie DeSanto did request that we see Tim Rhodes in her place, so we will do that. And Paul did request that we seat Hugh if we need it for a quorum, and obviously Hugh's not here and we don't need it for a quorum. So I think that takes care of number 2. Moving on to number 3, communications. The big communication is the referendum results were affirmative. Was it yesterday? No.
That was Tuesday.
Today's Thursday. I've lost track of time already.
And you are in Ashford.
Thank you for that. Yes, thankfully we're in Ashford because other towns did not fare so well. So the vote, just to share it for folks that don't know, the general government budget was 152 votes yes, 41 votes no. The Region 19 budget for Ashford's share was 156 yes, 38 no. And the Ashford school budget was 151 yes, 43 no. I did follow up with the other schools in the Region 19 district, and that did pass across all 3 towns. Mansfield for Region 19 was 133 yes, 8 no. So theirs was even lower turnout than ours. And Wellington's Region 19 results were 314 yes, 277 no.
Wow.
And Wellington's, just in case you're interested, Wellington's general government and the local school budget both failed. And Coventry, I know their budget also failed. So we're very grateful that our budgets passed. So let's see. Oh, I do just want to say a thank you to everybody who made the budget referendum successful. I went to when they were tallying the votes on Tuesday, and the volunteers or some of the workers had been there since 6 in the morning, and it was after 8 o'clock at night. Sherry Much had been working from 6 in the morning until after 8 o'clock at night, our town clerk. So a lot of people worked hard on the day of, and then of course, all the effort that went into the process, including from our first selectman, Catherine, and the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Education, the school administration. Everybody works, I think, very hard, and that's a big reason why we had a successful referendum. So well done to all. Other communications, we did finalize with the help of Sherry Sophie, the contract with the new auditing firm, Hoyt Filippetti. So that all the paperwork's been signed. The next step with that will be scheduling a kickoff meeting, which probably will not involve individual members. Correct me if I'm wrong, Catherine, but that's typically the Board of Finance chair, the treasurer, school board representation, getting together, just sort of plan the schedule. So that needs to happen sooner rather than later. But great that that's moving along. And then 2 things that we've been communicating about that still needs to be finalized and will show back up on agendas are updates on the status of capital projects. We were talking about that a few meetings ago. We still need to circle the wagons and get a meeting on the calendar with the interested parties so we can finalize that. And then also discussion with the treasurer and others about our process for funding capital projects moving forward. Since there were some questions raised at the last meeting, we definitely want to look at our process for that and make sure we've got that we're operating the correct way. So that's what I have for communications. The next item is approve our minutes. So we have our regular meeting minutes from the April 25th, 2024 meeting. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve.
Judy made the motion.
Oh.
I'll second.
Pam seconded. Is there any edits or discussion regarding those minutes? Okay, with that, I will call a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, those were approved unanimously. Okay. Item number 5 is public comment. If anybody would like to make a public comment.
This is Catherine. I have a request that on the agenda, we have Jessica Miller's request, and I am hoping that the board will move that up on the agenda so that she doesn't have to sit through the entire meeting to let you know what we've already discussed with the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, so that's, we do have it on the agenda for item E. Catherine, would you prefer, should we put it above the selectmen's update or after the selectmen's update?
I would put it right after the Selectmen's update. I think
Okay.
that would be
Do we have
fair.
Do we have to vote to do that, or can we just? Do that?
Yeah, you have a short vote that just says to
Okay.
move it up on the agenda. And you know what? And if you want to put it before the Selectmen's update, that's fine.
Okay, we'll do that. So I will make a motion that we move item E, discussion and possible action regarding the seed funding for a van for the Ashford Housing Authority, to item A under new business. Can I have a second for that?
Second.
Keith seconded that. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
And Jessica, if you don't mind, if I could just lead in a little bit for this.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely, yes.
Just to let you know that I provided a write-up, a short write-up to you, along with a document that Jessica has that talks about the van. So I don't know if that's been shared with the rest of the board.
So the document was shared. I didn't share your email, Catherine. But I can
Oh.
call that up now and read it to everybody
That-
if you would like.
Yeah, I think that would be good, because it does provide a summary, and then Jessica can fill in any details where you might have questions. And Jessica, you saw that summary, correct? I sent it with, yeah, I put you on copy for it.
I'm not sure. I
Yeah.
will look again.
Yeah, and as a lead-in,
Okay.
Jessica came to the Board of Selectmen at our meeting on Monday and presented what her request is, and the Board of Selectmen enthusiastically endorsed it. So let's see, I have it.
Just give me
Yeah.
1 second while I'm trying to get into my email
Yeah.
here.
And I have
Catherine,
my,
you sound like you have a cold. Are you okay?
little tired.
A
that's
little
all.
tired, okay.
Let me just see, I probably have it right
Oh,
here.
I
too.
have it right here.
Okay,
If you want me to
Good.
read it?
sure. It's for
Okay.
everybody if they don't have it already.
Yep, so the email from Catherine, I shared the documents that were attached, but the actual email in regards to the Ashford Housing Authority van state grant. The Ashford Housing Authority has applied for a senior transportation grant that will pay up to $50,000 for a vehicle to transport seniors. Attached is a document, which is linked in the agenda, from the Housing Authority Director, Jessica. Hello, Jessica. Outlining the cost for a 2024 Honda Odyssey EX van to be used for transporting small groups of seniors for appointments, grocery shopping, and other needs. Note, the Ashford Senior Center van requires 5 to 15 people for all trips, which limits its availability for these types of activities. The full cost of the van, which is $39,239, will be reimbursed by the grant after the van is purchased. However, the Housing Authority does not have enough funds for the entire purchase. The authority would like to borrow $10,000 in seed money from the town to supplement their purchase, then pay the town back once they receive the state's reimbursement approximately 30 days after purchase. This proposal has the full support of the Board of Selectmen. Ms. Miller is seeking Board of Finance approval. So
Jessica?
anything, either Catherine or Jessica, that you'd like to add to that?
Yep, so,
No, I think
yeah.
Jessica's pretty prepared to discuss it.
Sure. So like Catherine had mentioned, this is a grant provided by the Senior Resources Agency on Aging. And it was proposed for towns in northeastern Connecticut that have a history of having difficulty providing public transportation to their seniors. Just being that we're in a rural area, we don't have any daily public transportation. We're not on any routes. So we do utilize Dial a Ride, which is terrific. And we also utilize the senior center bus on a regular basis. However, like Catherine had mentioned, that sometimes if we don't have enough people signed up on the bus for the bus, those trips get canceled. And we have several tenants in the senior housing that rely on those trips for groceries. In addition, we also have several tenants who do need medical rides on a regular basis. And maybe they do use Dial a Ride, but sometimes they have to pay. If you're under 62, you have to pay. So we're just trying to expand services that are already in the town with the senior center and Dial a Ride. So we just want to try to make it more make it more usable, have more transportation services on a regular basis. And this grant allows us to do that by getting a vehicle that typically Ashford Housing Authority would not be able to just go out and purchase on their own. So this is a really good opportunity. And actually this afternoon, I just got notice that we were awarded the money for the van, which is great news. And it also did confirm in their letter that the reimbursement would happen within 30 days. So it's a really quick turnaround. This is being funded through ARPA funds. They're really eager to see this money being used to expand transportation all over Northeast Connecticut. So I was really excited that we could take advantage of this opportunity. And Catherine's been tremendous help just trying to work together to make this possible. So.
And if I could elaborate a little bit more, we have a group that Jessica started that meets once a month, and we're calling it the Senior Consortium. And Jessica, can you just let people know who's in that group? Because what it does is we all work together and we're all aware of each other's programs and needs.
Right. So we started, it's probably been at least 6 months now. And the idea behind it is, so we have the senior housing, we have senior center, we have Melissa McDonough, who's a wonderful social worker. And also the Commission on Aging is also there. So all of those groups that, invest time and resources to provide services to seniors in town, we meet monthly so we can collaborate, make sure we all know what was going on with everybody, what needs are, what, certain agencies might need at the time. So it's been a really great working relationship with all of those departments. And,
that's what-
that's
I
why
was
this is how this came even about. So, it's been really successful.
and how it came about in general. And why everybody was supporting it is because we know that the senior center van has a limit on the number of people, a minimum limit for use of the van. Because it was purchased with, I can't remember if it was federal monies, it was state monies, I believe. And so we have to adhere to that limit. And you must have a minimum of 5 people in the van in order to use it. And the needs of the elderly, the seniors, we don't always in fact, it's unfortunate that we've had to cancel a number of trips for groceries, etc., because we didn't have the minimum number of people, and we know people rely on it.
And if I may, I just if I may real quick, I just want to make a point that this van, so Ashford Housing Authority is going to maintain it. But it is for all Ashford seniors. It is not going to be just used by the Housing Authority. We're going to work together with the senior center. So it really is for all Ashford seniors. And I just, I want to make sure that that's clear, because that is the goal.
A question,
Go ahead, Keith.
is this going to replace the existing van?
No, not at all. The existing van is used for larger groups. And that one, for example, there are many different kinds of trips that they take, that the seniors take using that van. So they go to different events. We definitely do use it for shopping when we have enough people to put on the van. But that van gets quite a bit of use.
So this new van would be a way to get around that limit, the minimum number of passengers?
Yes, and in addition, any kinds of conflicts in terms of use of the van versus, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, I'm gonna call it the senior center bus to make it clear. Use of the senior center bus for one event or what, for one event, and then, something's needed for shopping for the seniors, especially in senior housing, would be the use of the other van. So that in terms of those conflicts won't come up. I'd like to add too, that I believe, Jessica, you have a driver for the van that you're talking about.
Yes,
well.
yeah, that's correct.
Where
So we
we
have
often,
a,
yeah,
yeah,
where we
so
sometimes
right,
have
and that's
issues
another,
getting a driver for the bus.
exactly, because the senior center depends on volunteers. Which they do have wonderful volunteers for that, but it is difficult sometimes to get drivers. And we do have a resident service coordinator. She works part-time, and she would be driving the van for the trips. So we have a reliable driver.
Questions?
Yeah, go ahead, Judy has a question.
So I have a couple, so what is have we looked at how much the insurance costs are gonna be additional to, home? And, are we using our ARPA funds to do the 10,000?
I couldn't understand the last question. Using our what?
Judy asked if we're using our ARPA funds for
No,
the $10,000.
no. This is Jessica can explain, but it's a different ARPA program. Completely
Oh,
separate.
correct. Yeah, so this is money that the senior resources agency has. They have their own ARPA money that they're trying to use to provide transportation services. So it's completely separate. And with regards to insurance, Ashford Housing Authority will pay for the insurance. All of the costs associated with the van, we have in our budget. Like, we've budgeted that out. And that's included in our operating budget.
And I do want to sort of back up, and it kind of leads into that point. So, because this gets very confusing, people, and I'm sure you
Mhm.
get this all day, every day. People think your building is the senior center, and it's not, right? And so can you just explain what your building is, the number of people that live there, and where you get your funding from, because you generally don't get any funding from the town of Ashford, right?
Correct, you're right, sure. So, we have 34 residents right now. The housing authority, Pompey Senior Housing has 32 apartments. We have 34 residents right now. And we get all of our funding from the rent that is paid to us, okay? And some of that rent is partially subsidized by the Department of Housing, the Connecticut Department of Housing. On average, they subsidize the amount of, on average, $40,000 a year in rental assistance payments. That figure changes every year based on the needs of the residents. But every resident in that building pays 30% of their income towards rent. So whatever 30% of their monthly income is, that's how much rent they pay. That doesn't always match up to what our base rent is, which is the amount of rent that we need to operate successfully for the year. So when there's a gap, then that's when the Department of Housing picks up the difference. So, but it really is just from rent. That's where our revenue comes from.
So somebody else had a question, so this new van with the upkeep and all that, that's not going to increase the cost to the residents, they're not gonna be paying anything more.
No, definitely not. No, we've already actually passed our budget. I did include this in there in anticipation of getting this money. We operate on a fiscal year budget as well. And, so no, that would nothing, would directly impact the residents.
And just to clarify again, the housing authority is asking for a $10,000. It's almost like a bridge loan, like we would give it to you and then you would give it right back to us essentially within, we're
Correct.
thinking 30 days. So at the end of the day, this isn't going to cost the taxpayer of Ashford anything,
Right.
right?
That's correct. That is correct. And the reason why we're asking for this temporary, like you said, the bridge loan is because we do have savings. We have a reserve account. It's small, and we don't have enough to pay for the van in full. Okay. And I don't want to drain our account down to zero. So that's why we just need this little bit of help just to get us over to that amount so we can buy the van and then get reimbursed.
Okay. Oh, and actually, would it be possible for you to email me? You said you got a letter that confirmed that you were awarded the grant
Yes.
and that that the reimbursement will happen within 30 days. Would it be possible for you to email that to me? Just
Oh,
so
sure,
I have it
absolutely.
for my
And would you put
records.
me, and would you put me on copy as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll
Thank
yep,
you.
I'll email you both. Absolutely.
Okay, technical question. Catherine, is this something that has to go to town meeting?
No, it's less than $20,000.
Okay. So if we were to approve it, we would be making a motion to move $10,000 from the unassigned fund balance.
I think,
to
let me think about this for a second. I think what you would be doing is that you would be issuing a check from the unassigned fund balance.
So do we authorize?
Because we don't have
sharing?
a town account for the housing authority. If you look at our budget, they're not part of our
Right, there's a
budget.
line item,
They're actually a separate entity. We own the building, but they maintain it, etc. But they're essentially a separate entity.
So would we then authorize Treasurer Sherry Susie to write a check from the unassigned fund balance of the general fund in the amount of $10,000 for the purpose of providing seed money to the Ashford Housing Authority for
Yes.
a van? Is that
Well,
correct?
well stated. The only thing that's missing from that is who the check would be issued to. So Jessica, is it appropriate to have it issued to the housing authority? So you put it in your coffers and you're paying for the van out of there? That seems like the best
Yes,
way to do
yeah,
that.
yes, yeah, I think so. Yep,
So who would that check be made out to? Is it the Ashford Housing Authority?
correct. Yep. Yes, it would be.
Um. Okay, so now that we got the technical questions out of the way, any other questions?
No, but I'd like to say to Jessica, good presentation.
Did you hear that? She said good presentation.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to say that motion again. I will make the motion since it's kind of complicated. Okay. I am going to make a motion that we authorize treasurer Sherry Susie to issue a check in the amount of $10,000 made out to the Ashford Housing Authority for the purpose of acquiring a van that will be reimbursed by a state grant. Does that sound correct?
Sounds good.
Yes.
Sarah, a second on the
I'll
motion.
second that.
Keith seconded the motion. All right, any discussion? Okay, and all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, unanimous. So I will connect with Sherry Susie tomorrow morning, Jessica, so she knows that we've done
Okay.
this. Have you ever talked to her before? You know her?
I don't think I've actually met her. No.
Okay, well, I think you'll probably talk to her. I'm guessing she'll, who knows, there might be additional questions that she has, but.
Sure.
So I'm sure she'll want to connect with you tomorrow about that. And then, yeah, if you could just forward that letter to me, so I have it.
Yep.
And, if you could also communicate to me when. Along the process, like, we got the van and then we just got the reimbursement. If you just kind of keep us posted, so I can. keep the
Absolutely,
board
yes.
aware.
Yep.
'Cause obviously, we will hope that it all moves smoothly and. It's reimbursed quickly, but sometimes these things drag out, so we'll just want to keep an eye on it.
Right, but yes, I will definitely keep you and Catherine in the loop on all of that, so. And thank you all very much for allowing me to come tonight and taking the time, and I appreciate your support.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Okay, have a good night.
Thank you. Okay, so that's our van discussion, and with that, we can move on to the selectmen's update. Catherine, if you have anything you want to share?
Yeah, a few things. DPW, the grader is broken, or at least it was broken as of a few days ago. They were able to use the grader to do half of our roads, and now they're looking to rent a grader because they're quite expensive. I don't know that if this grader can be repaired. What they had done previously was we had an old grader that had its own engine, and they weren't using it. It was not really serviceable. And when the grader first broke down, the one that they normally use, they took the engine and moved the engine from the old grader into the new one and felt really great because they got it working, which was pretty miraculous. And then in doing their work after 2 weeks, like I said, the grader broke down again. So right now they're going to looking to rent a grader until they can figure out what to do next. So that's just one thing to let you know. A few weeks ago, the bus bay heater in the bus bay that is for the school buses, the heater exploded That's been replaced. I don't know what the bill is on that yet, but I'm not sure if that bill comes to the town or if it goes to the school. And I think the biggest thing right now, the senior center, we were cited by the health department. They inspect about every 4 months, I think. And we had 15 violations. And unfortunately, some of the violations were the same ones that they had in October. So as a result, a group of us went in and started to address the violations together. Those were volunteers, members of ARPA, myself, Tess Grouse, who's been covering for the senior center director. And so in looking, we actually had a toilet that had been leaking. Actually, it was the urinal in the men's room, had been leaking for over 4 months. And so there are tiles that need to be replaced there. We need the toilets replaced. They run somewhere between 200 and 300 or plus per. And we also had bills for the stove, 2 bills that totaled about $1,700. And we have other work going on in the bathrooms to clean them up. They're getting repainted. Public Works is doing that. And the reason I mention these things is because the senior center budget only had $2,000 in their budget for repairs. And we also, and I do not remember how much it was, but I think it was a couple $1,000. The senior center bus needed to be repaired. It needed new tires. It needed a number of things. And I don't think I've seen that bill yet. So I'm telling you this because I anticipate this, I know the senior center budget for this fiscal year will run over. I'm not concerned about that in terms of the overall general government budget bottom line. We'll see, what it comes to, but the senior center has not been maintained the way it needs to be maintained. It is not, in general, it was not a healthy environment to bring people into. And we're serving a very vulnerable population. We also, what do we call it? Food protection manager license had expired. Apparently it expired February 5th. And so we don't have someone who can really oversee cooking of anything in that kitchen. There are groups that can warm things in the microwave. There is a hot dog steam machine that can be used. But other than that, the stove, literally the stove we just fixed cannot be used. So there are a lot of things that need to be addressed there. And we have a team of people who are working on that. And I'm most grateful for their help. But we're trying to make our senior center what it should be. So I'm just letting you know that budget will run over and we'll monitor it as we're going along. But I just want to give you a heads up.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing is Parks and Rec is looking to paint the pavilion and the concession stand and the barricade around the portalette. They're anticipating it's going to be, we got an estimate of $3,900 for 2 coats of solid stain, 2-year warranty. I'd like to add that these buildings are 20 to 30 years old and have not been painted since they were put up, as far as I know. And I'm working with Sherry York on that. In addition, the fire marshal inspected April 10th. The fire marshal inspected the town office building, Knowlton Hall, and the senior center. There were violations in all 3 buildings. We need some more specifics, but we're trying to address those as well. And there may be some monies that have to go into doing that. I'd like to commend Public Works. They've been terrific. They've been the ones, for example, in the senior center, who are doing things in the restrooms, the repainting. They pulled old metal things that were affixed and embedded in the walls that are not being used, and took them out. And the day I sent off a little list to Public Works, I did that about 6:30 in the morning in a text to Casey, and 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I happened to call Tess over at the senior center just to see how the day was going, and she said, the guys are in here working already. So they've taken some time away from their road work to do those things. Otherwise, we would have to hire people to come in at a much higher cost. And I don't know if all of you know what a cove base is. Cove base is the edging that goes around the bottom of a wall. So in the bathrooms, the cove base needs to be pulled, and they're going to put in new cove base. Also in the big room in the senior center, we're getting an estimate on having that cove base replaced as well. It's as old as the building, and it's in pretty sad shape and definitely cannot be adequately cleaned. So that's where we are. We're trying to make sure that our senior center is a clean, warm, and welcoming place for people to come. And through that senior consortium, where we're all working together, we're looking to expand the programs that are presented there. We're looking at other senior centers and what they have for programs, and just trying to make it a whole used by more people in our town. Other than that, we already have something on the agenda concerning the fire station roof. So I'll leave that until we get to that point.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Kathleen? No? Okay, thank you for that report. Next item is set the mill rate for fiscal year 24-25. So since the budgets were approved, we have to officially vote to set the mill rate. And so we have two. We remember there's since the state put a cap on motor vehicle taxes, we have the motor vehicle mill rate at 32.46, and then the real estate and personal property mill rate is 34.364. So would anybody like to make a motion to approve make a motion to set the mill rate for motor vehicles for fiscal year 24-25 at 32.46 mils?
Motion.
Judy made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Keith seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we have our motor vehicle mill rate. And the next item is, would anybody like to make a motion to set the mill rate for real estate and personal property for fiscal year 24-25 at 34.364 mils?
I'll make the motion.
Pam made the motion. Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Tim seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Both of those were passed unanimously. Thank you. Briefly, and this, so item C on here, I have discussion on the budget process and what can be improved for next year. And this, you know, if you think of something after this meeting, you know, feel free to just let me know. While it's fresh in our mind, I just want to see if anybody had any particular things that they were like, oh, it's kind of stupid how we did that, or, we could do it better next year. I will say personally, the one thing that I really want to look at is our budget calendar, and I feel like this is like every year, it feels so rushed and a little confusing. So I do personally want to take a really close look at that, sooner rather than, kind of waiting until like January of next year when it needs to be approved. And I did see the town of Wellington's budget calendar, just visually the way it's presented, they have like the calendar at the top and the dates, it's just like really clear. So that's just one thing that personally I want to take a look at. So I don't know if anybody has any other comments or feedback just about the process overall, what worked, what didn't work.
I don't like the moving of the money for the capital until after the public votes on it, but we're gonna look into that, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
I don't have a solution, unfortunately, but that kept hearing how we were waiting on the departments to do their thing. And, there was just, that seemed to be drawn out, and that might have made it harder for us to bring things together.
Do you mean like when the departments, because they get the request, I believe, to the departments goes out in like December, and then they bring it to the Board of Selectmen and Catherine and the first selectman. So is it that
Well,
point that you're talking about, or a different point where you
Well,
felt that we were waiting?
along those lines, because it seemed like that some people were having a harder time getting their stuff together for presentation to the Board of Selectmen.
Mhm.
It's just, I don't know what you do about that, but that's,
you
So,
gotta take into
if I could-
account too that the auditing process is going on at the same time, it's kind of
yeah.
meshed together, so.
So if I understand correctly, the process is that, I think it was December 3rd, requests were sent out to each of the departments. Like for example, within the general government budget, which includes the fire department and, the library, and then all of the departments that, within, that support the town. So they received that request on December 3rd. We did make a change to, and as part of that, what they received was what their budget was, for the previous year. And then whatever, information, whatever updates there were in the current year up to that point. That's not the full year by any means. There was a change that we made to the format of what was sent out because, it was a bit confusing to people. So I worked with Sherry Susie and we sent out an adjustment to that. But they were all given the heads up and they all know what the budget process is. And their submissions were due, I believe, by January 10th or so. So then the selectmen, first it starts in my office and then it's brought to the rest of the selectmen. But if I understand correctly, we made the date that you had set for us to deliver, provide the information to your board. And I'd just like to point out that the previous year, we were quite late in doing that. So, but that is the general budget process, which is the selectmen work with the budget once people have submitted it. And we go out and we talk with the different committees and commissions and whatever in terms of, and departments in terms of what their budget request is. And there was a lot of work that was done that you don't see this behind the scenes. But yes, it was a struggle the last couple of days because we didn't get some information clarified, and also we did some additional research that was not normally the process. What I'd like to do is next year is start the process even earlier, and a great example is that Parks and Rec intends to, and in their particular case, the people who were on that Parks and Rec commission, the regular people on there, didn't really hear much about the request or discuss that request until they were at the last minute January something. So that the chair of that commission is already planning for them to work on their budget process starting in November. They're also working through it in quite a bit of detail now in terms of what they're working with. You know, they have a very tight budget, believe it or not. And so we're looking to do those kinds of improvements. From my perspective, what I would like to see is, and I did pull it up here on my home computer where I happen to have it. I would like to have something added. Well, first of all, to make sure that what's going on with our capital non-recurring and the status of projects becomes well known. Your board should receive that information early on so that you understand what the status of that is. We've all done kind of a lot of extra work trying to get to, you know, what is really available in CNR and what are the status of these projects, what can be, you know, which projects can be released because they're already completed and how much was left over, or did they go over for some reason? One of the things we had, and I happened to look back at 2014, 2015 budget when I was chair, and what we had put into the budget package and had, you know, certainly been discussed in detail on the Board of Finance was the status of each of the capital improvement, each of the capital improvement projects, what was originally requested, how much had been spent to date, and what the anticipated balance was for any projects that were in flight or had been completed at that during the fiscal year. And then the other part of what we have, and it was a summary by project with a description of what the project is and that other information. And then there was another section of this was for projects that were being requested for the new fiscal year. And the same kind of a summary in terms of what is the project, how much, you know, couple of lines, not just something cryptic on a capital non-recurring plan or a capital improvement plan. And then what's, you know, what's being requested and how it would be funded, anticipated funding.
That sounds great, Catherine. You said that was fiscal year
I'm sending, I will,
2014.
what I'm going to do, Christina, is I'm going to send you what was in there, you know, the actual report. Because
Okay,
I
great.
have it on my machine. It's just a model for you to take a look at and see if you'd like to do that. I think personally, not only does your board need to have a really clear understanding of what it is, certainly in the selectmen, but I think the public is entitled to that kind of information. And it's
Mhm.
hard to convey verbally and through, you know, something cryptic. So that I think that this is a pretty good communication mechanism for you.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping that you'll consider adding that. I know that on our part, on the selectmen's part, the finance department, our goal is to make sure that through the course of the year that you are kept aware. And then certainly when we have the audit done, and typically the audit's done before the end of the year, you'll have the information and even a more detailed level than what the audit provides on each of these projects.
I think that's great feedback, Catherine, and the one thing I'll add that I think we forgot too was the fact that the audit dragged out, and that was what really.
Oh, well, I think
Tripped
Judy
everything.
made an excellent point because people were trying to pull together, and it's really, there was a lot of pressure and extra hours that went into, for example, what the treasurer had to do. And the other thing too was he had a part-time treasurer, and now we have a full-time one, and that is just a godsend.
Gonna make a big difference, yeah.
Yeah, because we would have to wait for responses. She was very responsive, but the only time she could really give us responses or have a conversation was after hours.
Right.
So after normal work hours.
Okay, so again, if anything comes to mind, other items on the budget process, feel free to let me know, and I'll try to put together my notes so that we don't forget. So the next item is the discussion and possible action regarding the replacement of the roof for the Ashford Volunteer Fire Department building at 46 Westford Road. And just to clarify, that is the building that's here at the intersection of 44 and 89. There is another fire department building up by Lake Chapey. We're talking about the big building near the center of town. So there was a document shared, linked in the agenda. That's the letter essentially from the first select person, Catherine, dated May 7th, outlining the cost of the replacement of the roof based on a quote from McClintock Roofing. And that, and the cost of that is $99,999. And then the removal and reinstallation of the solar array located on a portion of the roof, which is estimated at $15,000. And then there was a secondary document that Paul Varga shared, that I emailed out to the board members yesterday, that has a little bit more detail on the history of the projects and the how the solar panels come into play. So the one thing before we get into discussing it, I just want to make sure we're clear from the outset that this project, if we approve it, we would just be approving it to go to town meeting. Is that correct? Because of the amount.
Correct.
Okay.
And they are two entirely, even though it might not seem that way, they are two separate projects. And
would
just
you-
so you know, anything over anything 100,000 or more needs to use prevailing wage. So that creates its own complication. It was interesting that the estimate that we got from the roofing company was 99,999.
So then this doesn't have to meet the prevailing wage requirements?
Right. It actually ends up costing much less than it would otherwise.
Okay.
So just as an insight for you.
So would we need to have two separate motions, Catherine, one for the roof piece and then one for the solar?
Actually, let me think
Or
about that
just-
for just a second. I think it would be that you would approve it. You would approve these in separate motions. And then you would have a motion to send them to the send this to the Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen to schedule a town meeting. So I think what it needs is the initial approval from your group that you agree. And then the request for a town meeting.
Okay. And you would consider these would be handled at the same town meeting? These two items?
Yes, we can do that. There'll be two items on the town meeting.
Okay. All right, so I would just open it up to questions. Yeah, go ahead.
So I have a couple, maybe I wasn't paying attention enough, but, where's this money coming from? Is this from the capital? And how many quotes did we get on the building? On the roof and so on?
Is that a question
Catherine,
from?
did you hear
from me?
that? So she asked.
No, actually, Judy, your hand was in front of your mouth, so I couldn't hear what you said.
Can you try one more time?
I was asking where the funds are supposed to come from, if they're coming from the capital improvement?
No, actually, you'll
Yeah.
see in the write-up, in the letter that I sent, that they would be from the undesignated fund. And if you'll recall, this has been talked about before with your board. Is that couple things. We didn't put this, and I know Christina and Paul are both members of the Capital Improvement Committee. And it was the committee's recommendation or discussion not to include this in our capital improvement plan using CNR funds, because we would have to wait on repairing the roof or replacing the roof until at least July 1st. And the fact is the roof is leaking now. And we don't want further damage. There are the plywood under the roof. There are areas where it's rotted and it needs to be replaced. That's part of what the estimate includes. And we just don't want to wait that long, especially since we're having quite a bit of rain and we anticipate more rain. So, and again, if you'll recall, the leak was so bad that it brought down a fixture in the bay. And I know I went out there and they had a bucket catching the water coming through. So the point was to use undesignated funds for this so that it could be addressed as quickly as possible.
So my other question was, I remember the discussion of the damage, but, so how many quotes did we have on this?
How many what's?
Quotes. How many
I could-
quotes?
Quotes? Let me think about that. I think we had at least 2, possibly 3. Paul was actually, he did a great job. I have to commend him in what he's been doing for follow through on this. And what we came up with, and in terms of who we felt would be a reliable company to do this, is someone we've worked with before. And I don't know if you look through the package, but you can see what the assessment was, who did the assessment, and then the rest of the information.
I have a question.
Yes.
That 900, that 99,999, is that a guaranteed no matter what cost? Because you know, with the roof, you get in there, you start pulling up the old roof, you find, oh, we found something else, and that.
My
would have-
It's, well, there was a pretty thorough investigation done on the roof, and you'll see that in the write-up. They were very specific about areas and issues that it has. And so I feel we're very confident that that's the cost. That is what the roofer has wants to contract for. So this isn't something where you're adding on. And it does include replacing areas that are rotted. So, and the people that did the research or investigation of the roof are a roofing company. It's a different roofing company than the one that has bid on it. It's when we've worked with both of them before.
But then if it goes over though, doesn't that do they have to go to prevailing wage?
I don't,
So-
first of all, I do not believe they can go over. They are quoting that is the amount. This isn't like some of the other things that we do. So I do not anticipate it's going to go over.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
You said that, you worked with, the company before. Well, they're not the company that built the original roof. Hopefully, since it's leaking. I just, you know. just a
No, they're
thought.
not. Well, you need
Okay.
to understand, if you look at the information that was provided,
I-
quite a bit of
well,
the,
I-
bear
okay,
with,
then.
no, I'm talking about the rest of the board, I'm sorry.
Okay.
The source of quite a bit of the leaks is due to when the solar was installed on a perfectly good roof. And the roof is what, 20 years old? So that is, and so it has some other areas where it has eroded just based on age. And we looked at how could we patch the roof. In fact, the solar company has patched the roof twice. And I think that I think Paul mentioned something about that in his. So no, it's not the same company or companies. And even the people who would be deinstalling and reinstalling the solar, I'm not sure if they were acquired by another company, but it is not the same company that put the solar in to begin with.
Any other? Oh, you know what? I had a question. And this is in Paul's letter, and he's said this in the past, he's made this point that the fire department doesn't own that building, the town owns it, but the fire department leases it. How much
For
is the
$1,
lease?
for $1 a year for 99 years.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Any other questions about the project? Then can I have, or I'll ask, would anybody like to make the motion? And we're gonna break it up into the two pieces. As we discussed. And I'm sorry, I'm just calling up the document so I have the right numbers. So the first piece, the first motion is we're gonna make a motion to approve replacement of the entire Station 20 roof by McClintock Roofing for the cost of $99,999. Would anybody like to make that motion?
Could I make a friendly amendment, maybe? I just want to
Sure.
make sure that we do this as right as possible. That, and maybe this is where that you're also adding and to send it to, the Board of Selectmen for a town meeting. So each of those motions, rather than having the two where you're,
That would be better.
add that to the motion for each one, and then you only have, you have the two motions. And, okay.
Okay, so, so to restate that, and nobody's made a motion yet, so we don't have to amend anything. I'm saying, I'm asking for a motion to replace the entire Station 20 roof by McClintock Roofing LLC for the cost of $99,999. And send
And request,
and
and,
request
and,
that the Board of Selectmen schedule a town meeting to fund the request. Does that sound right?
well said.
Okay, so that's the motion. Would anybody like to make that motion?
I'll make it.
Okay, Keith made the motion. Would anybody like to second it?
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion? I'll just say, it's a substantial project, it's nothing to sneeze at, $99,999. So I don't approach this lightly. At the same time, we do have the money in the unassigned fund balance. We have a healthy percentage, we're at about 13%, I believe. And our goal is to be between 10 and 15, so we're in the middle of that range. So I think we do have the padding to authorize this. And again, it does go through another step. It has this town meeting step, so we're just kind of a check in the process.
Yes, go ahead.
Could you give the name of the company again?
McClintock Roofing, and it's MC and then capital C LINTOCK. McClintock Roofing. What were you gonna say,
LLC.
Keith?
Uh,
LLC.
And I just feel like we're between a rock and a hard place because it's not gonna fix itself. And who knows what, the weather just seems to be, our climate is going more rainy.
Mm.
And, I'm just also thinking that over time, it's not only will the damage become worse, but then, you have the people that work there, they're there on duty. And then the equipment and everything else, it seems as though that, this would be something that, needs to be addressed. And, and then if you, I guess, dig deeper into other quotes or bids or whatever you have, it's just going to be going on further and further into the year. So,
I'm just nervous about the solar again. Putting
Well,
all the
from-
money into a new roof and putting the solar in there and having the same issue happen again.
From what I understand, McClintock, like Chuck Funk, for what it's worth, thinks very highly of this company. So I would think that they're gonna do their best job.
Are
And then also, we now know that we need to watch the solar installation quite carefully. I think it's just like, they just didn't, from what I understand, drill where they should, like they missed the trusses and then it created holes.
Are they putting some kind of additional warranty on it or something? Cause I didn't look at the, so.
Um. I think there is some warranty, there was some warranty, I don't know. But in any case,
It doesn't
that's
matter.
the second, that's the second motion, that's, the first motion is just the roof. So any other comments on the roof project piece itself? Okay, I'm gonna ask that we, vote, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so that was approved to go to town meeting. Again, we didn't authorize to spend that money, it has to be finalized at town meeting. So the next item would be a motion for the removal and reinstallation of the solar array located on a portion of the Station 20 roof by C-Tech Solar for $15,000. And a request to the Board of Selectmen for a town meeting to approve funding for the project. So would anybody like to make that motion?
So moved.
Okay, Keith did it first.
Nope. I'll second then.
Okay. Okay, any discussion on that? So I think, do we know, Catherine, if there is any kind of warranty on this new solar piece?
I don't know that there's any beyond, no, I didn't look in the documents that I provided to see if it had a warranty aspect to it. I would assume there's some kind of a warranty for an installation. And it is the original solar array.
So we're not buying new panels, it's just take the old panels down and then put them back on.
Yeah, that's all it is. And as I indicated in the letter, failure to do this would result in it would have violation of the original solar agreement and a penalty of $209,668.
Ooh. Oh,
So
yeah,
we
that's an
have
important
we
point.
have to
Ooh.
put we have to put the same ones back on, regardless of warranty or whatever. We have to put them back on.
That's what I'm saying, put them back on,
Yeah.
and they're gonna just try the room again.
Well, I guess my question, I understand what you're saying, Catherine, but how old are these panels? Because the panels don't last forever.
I
Yeah,
think
they
they're
don't-
10 years. I think they're about 10 years old. I don't recall.
Because I just wonder if we're putting something on, it's gonna be.
I mean, I think they last at least 20 years because that's how long it often takes people to pay off the panels to begin with, to break even. So
And it's not the same company putting them back on?
I don't
I-
know.
I can't tell because that company is no longer in business as it was.
Oh, well, it's a
Okay,
different.
I don't know if it was fully, if it was just absorbed into the other company or not.
It's called.
I just
T-Tex
don't know
Solar?
that history. Regardless, it's going to be watched with eagle eyes as they do this. And again, to be quite candid, we have no choice. We have to put them back on.
Valerie, the name.
What's sad about this is I don't think we've realized the savings that was originally intended when solar was going to be put on that roof. And part of that, probably a big part of that, is because originally there was supposed to be a much larger solar array put on the roof. And I don't know why it wasn't. I assume it's because the roof wouldn't have supported it, or whatever the agreement was with the solar, group. We weren't able to put as much on. I don't have enough background on that, but the bottom line is we have no choice. We have to put it back on, regardless of its age.
So then the name is C-Tech, capital CTEC, Solar. And they're out of Bloomfield. Okay, any other comments on this motion? Okay, I will call a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Did you oppose? Did you vote? Judy, did you vote?
Raise your hand.
No, I don't like that.
Oh, you did, okay.
You're gonna confuse me.
Yes.
Good.
No, I'm still stuck on the whole,
Yeah.
putting a new roof on and possibly using the same company that screwed it up the first time, just to,
No, it's not the roof, it's a different company.
the solar, to have
The
the,
solar, it's, the company that did it is no longer in business.
but they might be involved.
Did they
No,
get
please.
acquired? Yeah.
Please, 10 years, they did it 10 years ago. It might be unlikely that even if they were absorbed by this other company, that they would have the same personnel.
Yeah, you're right.
That's a possibility, I suppose.
And I will do a follow-up on the company to make darn sure. Okay, you'll have all of that before we ever get to town meeting.
What is the timeline on that, Catherine? Do you have a sense of when you would want to schedule that town meeting or when the board of selectmen will schedule it?
I'm trying to remember when the Board of Selectmen meets again. We met on Monday. We may be having a special meeting over the next week or so. The worst case scenario is it would be in 2 weeks, under 2 weeks for our next regular Board of Selectmen meeting.
And then you would set a date for the town meeting. Is that usually like within a couple weeks?
We set the date and then there's we have to notice it. We've got to put that in the, a paper or whatever. If we do this right, we can get it into the Ashford Citizen so that we don't have to pay the newspaper, because typically it costs $1,000 put an ad in for these notices. So I would say it's probably going to take roughly maybe 4 weeks in total.
All right. The next item on the agenda is just a quick update on the 22-23 annual report. So far, I'm waiting on 5 reports, which is really good, I think. One item in the annual report, I'll ask you this question, Catherine. In previous years, we've had a report from the Information Technology Department. But at our last Board of Finance meeting, Sherry Susie was like, I don't think you need that anymore because we now have it outsourced. Does it really make
Right.
sense? Like,
We don't
so-
have an information technology thing.
Okay,
That was Cheryl Baker was filling in on that years
right.
ago.
So so that's one less report that needs to happen. So that's
Right,
good.
and you have one due from the selectmen. Right now, we're in the throes of the working with the Ashford School roof. It was something I inadvertently omitted from my update. So it'll be a little bit before we have that annual report ready for you. Because Christine is the person who is most familiar with what happened. But we'll try and I'll try and make sure we get that done as soon as we can.
Okay, thank you. So that's moving along, very good. Agenda items for the next meeting, and let me just look when our next meeting, I think you said 23rd, you think it's the 23rd, let me just double check. 24. So yes, so May 23rd is our next meeting. I'm hopeful that we'll have updates on capital projects, and also process around CNR funding. So hopefully we'll have both those items on the agenda. Probably have an update on what the process is with the audit in terms of when our kickoff is scheduled, etc. And then, I'm not aware of anything else that would need to happen at that meeting. So, okay. Remarks for the good of the board? Yeah, I just again want to thank everyone for their hard work leading up to the budget and the budget referendum. I know turnout was not high, and that's always disappointing. We all want more people engaged in the process. But I do really take to heart that it was so overwhelmingly positive. I mean, it basically was like 80% yes on all three budgets, and the numbers were all very consistent across the board, which sometimes we see, you know, one budget gets a lot of support and another budget doesn't. This was universal across all three, which to me is a very good sign that we had consensus in the community to support the budget. So that's, I think I take that to heart, and I think it's reassuring.
That is the first time I have ever seen it in all my years, where that they were so close.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. I don't know why, but I'll take it.
You'll take credit.
Yeah. No, because I don't want to accept blame when things don't go right. Okay, with that, I will ask if anybody would like to make a motion to adjourn.
So,
Judy wants to make a motion. Who would like to second it?
I'll second.
Keith seconded the motion, and with that, all in favor? Great, thank you, everyone.
Aye.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Night.
Close right in the middle. Oh, that's not.
Let's see.
That's fine.